Hello, everybody, and happy Tuesday. Welcome to your daily lighting critique. I hope you all, everyone that was celebrating the 4th of July weekend, enjoyed yourselves. Hopefully, I was just in California, and there are signs everywhere to never light fireworks anywhere because of all the dryness and the wildfires. So I hope everyone was safely lighting off fireworks wherever they were. We've got some videos to go through. We've got some stills to go through. So let's jump right into it. We're going to start with Diana's here. So update for the star fight. This is looking, like I said, it's and I said this during the original critique. This is just great structured natural lighting that looks really, really wonderful. It all makes sense. It's all balanced. It's looking really good. And right now we're just getting up to some additional goodness. And the only two notes that I have are I think she looks great. Her eye value, her teeth value, her skin value, her hair, all of it looks great. The only thing that I would have is to continue to push the amount of light. Like I can see that, like this one actually looks good from back behind, but when she kicks this guy, this is like the big explosion of the shot. This is the big one. And I can see there's like a really tight, nice light that's glowing in there. I still think we can get more on her. I think it could almost, because we need to connect her to that power. Like she's generating this power, and so we need to kind of connect her to that a little bit more strongly. I'm not saying it necessarily needs to be a rim, but I need to feel it like on her face, looking downward at it a little bit stronger, because that is a big explosion. And then obviously it goes away, which it does, which is nice. And then, but as we're over here, like I'm getting a little bit more of the light from these sparks to illuminate the robot himself. Like if you look just like back in here, as they kind of dance around, the light isn't really moving on that character, and I want to feel that kind of sizzle as that robot comes to a settling point. But like in terms of the rest of it, it's all looking really, really good. I think. Oh, the other thing was, I think we've got a really amazing job of getting like this defocus on this foreground foot looks really good. I think we can actually push the defocus on the background a few more pixels too. I think if we're getting that out of focus in the foreground, I think we can go a little, like a touch more in the background as well. But structure, everything, balance, shaping, everything's there. It's just now just plussing elements is really, really good. All right, let's take a look at Jason's next. We've got the reference here. Lots of aliens or alien. I guess
alien.
Yeah. So lots of darkness, lots of just like gritty space stuff, and we're feeling that in here. Flip. So I think your environment looks really nice. I like the haze point on the lights. I think those are working really good. It's the same deal as what we were just looking at with Diana's, and like really getting these secondary elements to interact with the characters a little more, because it's so dark. Like imagine like a flash bulb in a space like this. It would really kind of light up the characters, and I think it would create a more dynamic situation overall. But yeah, and then what that'll do is that'll push, because right now the character is like she's a little bit dark overall given the space. Like I would like to see more of this light. Let's see more of this light like coming down and maybe causing like a little bit of a rim on her. The other thing to watch out for is there looks like a pretty thick outline on her. There might be some doubling up of the alpha in the comp.
Yeah, I was comping that in Nuke, and when I added the depth, basically to put the robot a little bit darker when he's in there, it created that outline. So I'm trying to remove that.
So sometimes color corrections using Z depth space can be tricky, because it's the way that like an alpha channel is a pixel to pixel perfect edge. Z depth is calculated within the renderer. That's a little bit different than like the actual outline. So it can get like a little gnarly around the edges. Like it's totally fine on the outside of an object, like if you're seeing the edge of it with nothing behind it. But when you're seeing what we call internal edges, so basically everything in the shot is an internal edge because we're surrounded by this space. If you might have to separate the characters separately and then apply the Z separately to each one. So that might come up if it proves to be a bigger problem.
Okay.
Yeah, because so just getting a little bit more of that light on from the overheads onto her to get her to read a little more, and then something when this turns on, it's cool. It's just like I just wanted it to go like a step further because it's like it's zapping on and it's cool, and I want like the same way that I want these elements of like I want her to kind of glow, like I want her to kind of fill this space with light a little bit more too. Although I'm and then it kind of goes off at the end. So, but yeah, and then it kind of turn off a little bit. But yeah, those would be my big notes for you.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Good stuff. And next up we have Kat.
I just want to say I'm really happy with the rim light on her hair at the end.
Yeah, that looks great. You should be.
I'm like,
yeah, that's coming together well. So this light in front of her, this is from this robot?
yep.
Cool.
And I got motion blur on my sparks. I'm excited. I
Cool.
separated them out, a vector blur node on it, so I'm happy about that. The only thing is I'm still not getting the wall lights to look, I don't know, they still look wonky. I'm not happy with them.
That's fine. I mean, like the way that I would do it. I would do run a matte pass where I mean two things about them. One, I would run a matte pass where it's just like you can isolate them in the comp, and then you can possibly use a dilator like maybe isolate like because it looks like there's separate bulb geometry on the inside.
Yeah, and I have both bulbs separated out in separate passes.
Mm-hmm. So
they're within the collection. So should I just completely separate them out from the geometry too, or?
I don't think. I mean, I think if you have a matte, I would just go in there and make them bright. The other thing too is if with the camera spinning this much on these frames, like that's all going to be a motion blurred.
That's true.
It's all gonna be kind of like a streak out. I mean, it will matter at the end when the camera settles, but in these particular frames, it won't matter as much.
Okay. I made it. I think the sparks make her pretty bright. It's kind of hard to tell with these because they go so fast, but also with the light coming closer to her, it kind of gives out that.
Yeah, I see it more as the light actually than the sparks themselves. I guess that's that like this here feels more from that headlamp. That rim looks good there. Yeah. I'm wondering if the back of the robot in this particular one should go darker, so that we can keep our attention on her and that kick a little bit more. So it's like more like he's kind of rimmed up too.
Okay.
And then this guy back here, if we could get more of a contact shadow for him, it feels a little, especially towards the back here, it feels a little bit floating. Just to kind of
yeah.
And her eyes are a little bit bright. Like,
Okay.
just like a little bit glowy bright. Anybody else have any thoughts on this one?
I just redid the eye stuff because the eye stuff they gave us didn't seem to reflect right. So really quick last night I did I basically made pupils and irises myself on her. So
and like I think that where you're going with it is good. I just think it's like because there's a really fine line between being bright and reading and being like headlights herself, like being illuminating. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, good progress on this.
Thanks.
Okay. Steph, we've got your latest and greatest here. Take a sec just to watch through it entirely. Yeah, I think this looks great. I know you mentioned a couple of like little tweaks that you have to make. Does anybody have any additions, any adjustments? Actually, the only one that I saw, if possible, was here. Just a little more contact shadow, if possible. He just feels like he's floating on the ground a little bit, but I think it looks great otherwise. Anybody else have any thoughts?
I saw the same in the game machine.
Mm-hmm.
In this one, doesn't have any shadows.
Mm-hmm.
Previously, so it looks a little bit floating.
Yeah. So, yeah, maybe. Yeah, I guess it doesn't really have it. Yeah. Like this character has him here. It would just be nice. I think there was just something about this character missing them. But yeah, just figure out the shadow thing. But other than that, like, and then I said I know you had some low res things you were going to work through, but it really looks fantastic. It's really cool stuff. All right, Chris, let's take a look at this, and we'll actually let me show the reference first, and then let's take a look at this. Nice.
Yeah, I made I changed references. I wasn't happy with the way the other one was going.
No, this is good. I think the floating particulates look nice. Is that like a post process or what is that?
That was all. Yeah, it was a post processor. It was a grayscale gorilla dust package thing.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it looks great. So, I'm trying to think. Let's go to the last one. So one of the things that's really nice about this is the softness of the light kind of wrapping around them. It's a little bit more like embracing. In this one, it gets a little bit hard edged. I would work to kind of soften that a little bit more, and just kind of create that. I think the eyes might be a little bit too glowy, and then let's see, yeah, like this value feels about right. I'm trying to think once we get that softness in, I think the fill value is actually in a good spot. The other big thing is we want to see this light react a little more to him popping up, like having him break the shadows a little bit.
Okay.
Because and the way that you would do that is to put do you have the volumetric light separated as its own pass?
I do.
I would put his animation in that, but just like have him as I forget the shader name. It's like a cutout where it's like a black, it's basically so he influences the light rays without actually having him render out as pixels. Like basically it's just like a cutout. Like it's like if you just took like a black cardboard cutout and put him in the frame. So because once that object passes through the volumetric lights, the actual volumetric light will change a little bit and it'll become much more interactive. And I think the front part of the couch can probably go a little darker too. Like this stuff can go darker. Subsurface on the ears looks really nice. Yeah, those would be my big notes. Does anybody else have any thoughts? Yeah, I would say I'll stick with that, and that's good update.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, all right, Ashley.
So last time you saw this, it was an alpha issue with the mic.
Mm-hmm.
It was matching the red on the cans and then like widening the reflection in his eyes.
Yeah.
And then making the red brighter near the monitor.
Yeah. Yeah, that stuff looks good. I'm also looking. There was a. We wanted the reflection in his eye to animate, along with the
Animate
like with the screen changing. So right now it looks like there's one thing reflected in his eye, which it looks like a game, and then once we go here, it still looks like the environment of the game. Like it should be like a blue screen. I don't know, red screen or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, cans look better. That looks better. If there's any way, I guess I'm looking at my own mouse now. I'm looking at the mouse on the keyboard, or the mouse there. It's a little bit dusty matte, but I guess it's just how they are, kind of.
I mean, I'm looking at mine. I mean, it could maybe use a little extra spec, I guess.
Yeah, and it was just standing out to me a little bit. And then have the. No, it's okay. I was gonna make a teeth note, but I think they get a little blue at the end. But yeah, I guess I'll leave that in as a note. That the teeth in the beginning of the shot they look good, but back here they look a little like we've kind of lost the connection between, again, the teeth eye. Eye white should be about the same. How do you feel? Like, anybody else have any thoughts on this?
I do.
Yeah.
The mic is missing the light coming from the monitor. We can see that has some sort of rim lights from the keyboard, but not from the monitor.
That's fair. Yeah, if there's a little bit of indication that the red light in there, that'd be good. Yeah, this is coming together well. All right, cool. Let's hop over into the stills.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you. We will. Let's see. We've got. Oh, Brenda, you are here. Hello, Brenda. So. Hi. So I agree with you in the that the. Oh, weird. Sorry. Hold on just a second. I agree with you that the God rays help. I think it adds some, breaks up a little bit over here on the screen left hand side. I think it really helps tie the whole image together. I don't have any other notes on this one. Does anybody else have any thoughts? You guys ready to clap? You feel good? You ready? All right. Good job, Brenda. That was great.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So we have our first submission for the July lighting challenge from Julia, and we Julia, you had this one I think yesterday, and then this update was from today. So I think that they are really, really beautiful. I'm assuming that this one is an update to this, so I'll go ahead and look at this one, and then this one is just a different lighting scenario slightly. So I think it's great. I think it's looking really nice. I would love to see a little bit more, and this happens. This is very, very common, and this is that inside of buildings, it just ends up being just like a solid color of light spilling out. And when you look at buildings from the outside, you realize that there's a lot more breakup, not necessarily in the color, but in the value, because there'll be things like furniture in front of the windows, or a dresser, a shelf, a desk. So what we would need to do, and everyone else who's going to be working on this, throw some primitive geometry in there to kind of break up the shadows around the windows, just so that it looks like the house is a little more occupied and it's not just like an empty room. The colors look really beautiful in both of these. I actually love the treatment that you're getting on the snow in this one. It's a really nice combination of colors. And the challenge of these shots is going to get that color into the snow without them getting either too bright or too dark. I think the values in here are nice. I do think that you can go a little bit brighter on the snow on the house and on the trees right here. We can also start to feel a little bit more of that orange snow, or that orange glow, I should say, on the snow. I mean, you can see it down here, but just like directly out of the windows. I think more in this one that it would be nice to kind of darken the face of these mountains a little bit, and then just allow this rim to kind of get a little bit stronger. And then in terms of these glowing orbs, we'll call them, I think it's a great idea. I think it's nice. I think it leads our eye back to the house. I want to feel a little bit more depth in them. I think that we can create a little bit more brightness in the foreground. Like it'll be brightness, it'll be scale, just something to kind of pull the foreground ones more forward and the background ones more back. Scale, and then also brighter near the foreground. It gets a little bit darker as we go back. Just a little bit more variation within those. But the reflections in the water look good. And I think everything else is feeling nice. Sky on this one feels good. The only thing about the sky in this one is it's a different style than the foreground. Like the sky feels more abstract than the elements themselves. It's just something to be aware of there. It's not a huge problem, but I always feel like a disconnect in the design sometimes and stuff like that. But yeah, these are both looking really, really good. So great job with those. Keven, we have up next. This is looking, much better. I think the challenge of this one is going to be her suit, her outfit, and the surroundings, because the hue saturation level is about the same. So if it was me, I would swap that and maybe make her outfit like blue, unless that's part of the story is that she's one with the space and kind of a part of it and all that. But if it was me, I would make her different than things and just to get her to read a little bit stronger, but I'll leave that up to you. Her skin can go a little bit more specky. It's a little diffuse, flat, matte right now, and I think that we can go a little bit more with some specular values in there. We're seeing some glow from the sparks on her legs, and I think that would be good, but I think that's working out really well. And then we need to figure out a way to get some more variation on this flat helipad thing. Like some way of either with like a gobo or a light blocker, just something to get a little bit more variation in there. So we can almost like set the stage around these characters in the middle.
Okay. Yeah, the more I play with this, like you were saying, with saturation, like the kind of overall hue, it's way more difficult than I thought, because the brights will blow out in one area and be fine on the other area, and then I try to fix one and then it goes somewhere else.
Yeah, you're like
everywhere.
Yeah, you're just constantly chasing it. So, but like I think it's looking good overall. I think the city background is nice. I think the depth of it feels nice. I think the black points in the characters, allowing them to pop forward, looks really good. Like one of the difficulties that you solve pretty easily is getting, again, the focus on these foreground characters on top of a complex background with lots of little shapes. Like these like big buildings in the distance that have lots of little shapes and lots of nuance. They usually kind of distract the eye back there, but you've done a good job of putting atmospheric on top of it and blurring it just so slightly, where really all of our attention becomes down to the detail of the characters. So that's really good. All right, yeah. All right, Sarah, you are up next. Welcome, Sarah. So let's see. Yeah, this is feeling right, just about right. It's funny when I first saw this, I was like, oh, it's like we don't have enough values in the brights. Like I really just kind of want to push it brighter like this. But in seeing the reference, I think it makes sense. Because I'm guessing that this image probably has a similar graph that puts the majority of the values in the bottom half of the levels. Let me see one thing. Sorry, I was just looking at the softness on these shadows versus the softness that you've generated here, and they're about right. This is a good example. Like I talk about like specularity on the skin. Like look how much like sweat speck is back there, and also on his face. This fill value is really nice. This is a little bit extreme contrasty shaping over here on the hat and canteen or walkie-talkie. I'm not sure what that is, but like all that stuff is really getting some nice shaping in there overall. So basically, I think that you could probably lift the gamma a little bit. Like if I'm seeing again the fill value in his face versus how dark like this stuff gets, I think you probably get a little more fill in there. But overall, I think you're getting the point of the the lesson, and I think you're probably good to move on unless you want to keep tweaking this a little bit. But really, what this assignment was, it was to get you to look at reference differently, analyze it, process it, understand it, and then move forward with it. So I think you've demonstrated that, and I think you could probably move on to either the next course or the next asset, and keep creating some stuff. So really good job here. All right, Ubed. So we had this post at the end of just in time. This post at the end of last week. We asked for some reference, so we've got some really beautiful underwater reference here, and then a couple of updates. Then this one was the update from today. So what we're seeing out of the background is this reference is like some really bright points, like here of like a real sense of the surface, to say it another way, like brightness up here at the top shining down, brightness up here at the top shining down, and I would like to feel that a little bit more strongly. Where like up here, there's some indication of the surface, like some indication of light up here kind of shining down. And then that'll also provide for us a little bit of directionality on the light. So because the light right now is hitting him pretty frontally, and it would be nice if it kind of came in at a little bit more of an angle to create some more shaping. The other thing about the reference is, well, this one doesn't really matter, but this one, it keeps all of, like, looking at these guys, like these guys should legitimately be in some, hazy background bit, but because they're kind of like, main characters of this, like we've pushed back some of those values. I think you could do the same thing here. So like the amount of haze that's on the octopus, I would take that down to next to 0 and push that haze just directly behind them. Like allow that to start behind them and allow that to be the distinction point between the character and the background to get them to read a little bit more. Light gets diffused pretty a lot underwater, so watch out for, like, the sharp shadows don't really track under there because they just hit the water, the surface, and just refract all over the place. So there's not a lot of like straight parallel line shadows underwater. There's also, because of that, there's a lot of fill value, so like these cards wouldn't quite get this dark. Yeah, but I think that's my main starting point on that. Is just to feel the brightness of the surface, take back the fog off of him, getting some more fill value in on some of these cards, and then generating some more shaping on the character as a whole. Those would be my big to-do list on this one. All right, so that is all for today. Does anybody else have any questions or anything before we part ways until tomorrow? All right. Hopefully the construction is done by them. Thank you guys for listening in on the tapping with me for the last 30 minutes or so. And I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. All right. Happy lighting, everybody. Bye.
Thanks.